Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this week's new episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends. And for some reason, the Resident Evil footage is not here. We're going to get that rolling in a second. First of all, this is an incredible. I am absolutely thrilled for tonight's episode, folks, because this is a very small channel. It's considered an indie among the bigger channels out there, and somehow or another, my charm has boiled over to snatch and to get Joe on today's program. And if you don't know who Joe is, he is the designer, developer, and creator of the indie darling that is going to be talked about in many top 10s in 2021, Song of Iron. Joe, welcome to the program there, brother.
Boom, how's it going, man? Thanks for having me.
Good. It's great to have you here, brother. Thank you so much for joining us. We're looking forward to hearing exactly what you have to say regarding some updates to Song of Iron. Hopefully you'll be able to answer a couple of questions on how your quest to make this game came to fruition, where you worked prior. It's something that we didn't get a chance to talk about in our interview that we did about a month ago. And you have some really interesting ties to Microsoft, brother. And I can't wait for you to tell everyone about that. So let's get into the introductions. And we're going to start first with the middle-aged gamer guy. Now, if you don't know who this guy is, you probably have heard him. He's the loudest man in Canada. Mag, welcome to the program.
Yeah, well, good evening, Boom. Good evening, chat, and to our esteemed guest, Joe, and to the rest of our esteemed panel as well. And Crispy Bomb just showed up. Guys, we have an incredible show for you tonight. Yes, I am the middle-aged game guy. Everybody, hit that like button. Got some great topics tonight. Things are going to get spicy. Things are going to be informative and a lot of fun. Let's get right into it.
Yeah, no doubt about that. There's definitely going to be a lot of banter between this group of fine gentlemen. And of course, let me just get this rolling over here. You're going to see some Resident Evil Village footage. I actually recorded about 6 hours, but we're not doing the 6-hour podcast, thank God. So you're going to get 2 hours for sure. Let me introduce next Cybernox. This is our resident Cape Crusader. Got here in the nick of time. He's back. Hey, Cyber, welcome to the program, dude.
Hey, thank you, Boom. I'm glad to be here. I got a lot more energy than I had last week, which feels good. I'm back to almost, I would say I'm probably around 100%. So thank you, everyone, for that keeps checking up on me. I love our illustrious guest here, Joe, Song of Iron. Everyone's excited for it, and I can't wait to get into the show tonight. It's gonna get spicy, like Mag said. Might get a little bit loud too, so it's gonna be interesting.
Well, yes, we're gonna get into that momentarily. The way the folks, as we wait for the people to file on in, we got 100 people already here. Just to give you the gist of how the show is going to run. We're going to open up first talking with Joe, and we're going to find out some good information about Song of Iron, and hopefully some panel members are going to have some good questions for Joe, and then we're going to move on to our experience with Resident Evil Village, also known as Resident Evil 8, Capcom's latest masterpiece. I think it's already my game of the year 2021. I have not beaten it. I am at the 4th boss as we speak, and it has been, it's been an incredible ride. And then from there, the second half of the show, because we're going to wait until we have a lot of people here, we're going to talk about these documents that were released during the Apple versus Epic lawsuit, and some real dirty Sony secrets were left out to the masses, and there are a subset of people defending it. And as you can see in the thumbnail that I made, I find it very hard to understand, and even say hard to believe, how anyone could defend anti-consumer behavior. And that is something that Sony is known for. It's something they continue to do, and we're going to get into it later on in the program. But next up, Everborn Saga, welcome to the program. I'm glad you're here. I got nervous because you are going to be one of the loudest members on this panel regarding this particular topic on Sony. Welcome to the program, dude.
Thank you for having me, and Joe, thank you for being here. You are a little bit further down the path that I am trying to travel, so I may have a lot of questions for you, sir. I'm in a similar situation with the Everborn game. I'm the writer, the coder, the producer, all those things. So I feel your pain, and you probably feel more pain than I do. So happy to have you here, sir.
Rock on.
And last and no way least, the best voice in the business who definitely needs to be cast in a Gears game in the future. Crispy Bomb, this is a late notification, but I'm glad you're here because you, my friend, have been very vocal on social media regarding the information that was leaked or put out there during this lawsuit regarding Sony and their anti-consumer practices. And you, my friend, are probably going to have a lot to say. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for that real quick invite. I'm like, yes, good call. But I am truly honored. I am now on with two devs that are making games I'm very interested in. And yes, both equally as interesting. And definitely kudos to you for both of you for just, putting out and being here right now. It's really cool.
Well, thanks for being here, brother. And Joe, we're going to get right to you, brother. And obviously, I sent you some of the questions that we're going to be talking about. Song of Iron is an indie title that you've been working on for quite some time. And you know what? I got a chance to know the back history of it on where that whole story came from. But would you do me a favor and kind of tell the audience and the panel members where that story originally derived from? Because it's pretty damn interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Song of Iron, I mean, it feels like a really kind of classic Viking game at its outset, but it came from a D&D campaign with some friends of mine. I really wanted to be, the barbarian, and he had a really crazy story written up for us, and we kind of like smashed them together and made it work, and it turned into a pretty awesome campaign. And when I started trying to figure out what the story was going to be for Song, this just fit perfectly. And so I mean, it's almost 1-to-1 the D&D campaign.
That's pretty awesome.
Super exciting.
Yeah, I mean, folks, I listen, when he told me that during the interview, I nearly fell out of my chair because I played D&D growing up. I loved it. I loved it. I really enjoy. I don't play it now. I haven't played in years, but I really enjoyed it. And to hear that, something that he did, for fun, and he's bringing it, to as a business to make a game out of is truly remarkable for sure. Joe, we know that you are obviously you're a developer. You're making this game. You teamed up with ID at Xbox to put this game out on Xbox exclusively. Can you give the audience and of course the rest of the panel where do your development where have you worked prior to going out on your own, which has got to be scary to make your own game?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's definitely scary. I feel pretty good because of how long I've been in games and stuff. And to your point, I started at a place called Play Mechanics. Most of you probably haven't heard of it because it was like a arcade kind of barroom arcade place. I did Big Buck Hunter HD, the Terminator Salvation Cabinet.
Nice.
And some unannounced one I don't remember. I only worked there for a little bit. And then I was able to move out to California to work at Cryptic Studios, where I spent a bunch of time on Champions, 4 years on Neverwinter Online, a bit of Star Trek Online, and then like 2 years on an unannounced game that never quite made it, and it was going to be really good, but it didn't quite like work out. It's a shame, but and then I got a spot at 343 as a contractor, which quickly became a full-time spot. Wow. And then I was there for I think a year and a half of 5, and then all through Infinite until the end of December. And then I walked away to go full-time on Song of Iron.
That is pretty, dude. That is pretty epic. Listen, we obviously we can't ask some of the super secrets behind Infinite, but that's got to be cool that your name is going to be in the credits because that's obviously one of the flagship titles for Microsoft. It's expected to release.
That is the #1 game I'm looking forward to.
Yeah,
this year.
Yeah, it'll be fun to have 2 games released this year.
Listen, I want to go to Cybernox because Cyber, you had written 2 questions I thought were really super interesting. Would you like to ask Joe those 2 particular questions?
Yeah, absolutely. So Joe, obviously I've been following Song of Iron for a long time too. I think it's a great game. I played the demo, really loved the demo. We were talking about it behind the scenes. But what has been probably like or what has been like one of your biggest challenges as being a solo developer pretty much developing this game?
Yeah, it's a tough one. It kind of there's all these little things that kind of build up. I think the hardest stuff is anything code generally. Just sort of that's sort of the lame answers because I'm an artist, and so like code is not the way my brain works.
Okay.
Luckily, Unreal has the blueprint stuff, which is perfect for artists because it's a visual scripting language. But I mean, like realistically, it's like holding it all together is the hardest thing. I have to think about this, and this while I'm working on this one thing. Where normally it would just be like animate the punch animation, and then it's like, okay, I'll just do that and then not think about anything else. So it's been a very crazy exercise in like organization and planning ahead and all that kind of stuff that I'm generally terrible at, and so it's been a big crazy thing there. And the other thing, which is a little different, it's a lot of people want to help. Do voiceovers, do audio stuff, music, whatever it might be. And the hardest thing is like saying no to all these people. And it's like it hurts because they're really excited, and I love the idea of the help and stuff, but I'm not a manager for this. I'm like trying to make the game, and so like it's just this inevitable thing where I have to like turn people down, and it always feels so bad and all that. So
On the other side of the coin, or the other side of the spectrum, my second question would be, what's one or some of your best memories so far developing the game?
Yeah, I think every once in a while when I have fun playing, I like really remember that. And it's pretty rare because you're like, I know how everything works. I know the strategy, whatever. I'm overly efficient playing. But once in a while, I'll do something and I'll like laugh out loud because I had it like it was really cool or whatever. And those moments are pretty rare, so I really, really enjoy that. And then the demo, which you said, when that was out in December, it was crazy to see everybody playing, tons of people streaming it and putting up videos and stuff. And that's pretty mind blowing. I mean, I've released games before, but it's totally different when it's just like all of me.
That's your baby right now. Yeah.
It's a very stressful thing, but it's amazing at the same time.
Awesome,
Hey,
man.
Joe, could you just turn up your mic just a little bit? People are saying you're a little low.
Yeah, sure. I tried to pull it a little closer, but I'll.
All right.
See if I
Thank
can
you very
crank it up.
much.
Yeah.
Everborn, any questions you have for Joe?
I have several. So for me, right, just because, like you were saying, like I'm also the producer on my project. How do you manage like time? Because for me, when I'm working on it and I have a new idea, I just get this kind of scope creep where I'll just add a new feature and then add a new thing. And then the game has sort of reinvented itself like 3 times. Like I could have been on part 3 since I started this thing because I keep adding so much and then changing it around because of new things. How do you manage that?
That is the hopefully this is a bit louder.
Yeah.
That is the hardest thing. I actually started the first game I was working on was a totally different game, and it just was way out of scope for one person to do. And so at some point I really just sort of like gave myself some pillars that I could not go outside of, no multiplayer, side scroller, like kind of pretty basic, but pretty sort of hefty rules. And those have generally kept me on one path, which has helped a ton. And the other thing, which is more just experience from working in general in games for so long, is like if the player never knew you were working on something, they won't miss it in the final game because they never knew it existed. So sometimes you just have to really ask yourself, like, does this make the game better or not? And then and a lot of it's just like resisting the urge, and that's one of the mechanisms I do to like, okay, will it matter that much if this new thing is in or not? And then you write a note and you remember it for part 2 or whatever.
Right,
and you hide it in the chest and try to keep going.
And then the other thing is sort of like, do you ever worry? Because I worry about this all the time. So I don't know if you have this worry. Since I'm the only person developing my project, it's like I know where everything is. It's smooth to me. But I always wonder when I give it to other people, and I know you had a demo, but when I give it to other people, are they going to get it the way that I get it? Because I'm so into it. It's just like if you're like writing a novel, you have your own sort of meta narrative of what's going on and these references to you. So is that a thing that you think about? Like, because, you know, normally in larger teams, you have QA testers, you have all those other things. But when you're a one-man show, how do you handle that part of it? Making sure it's not too specific to you and it's more accessible.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, I reach out to friends, or, you know, I have my wife play, I have game dev friends play, and they don't need to be, it just could be anybody. And I have them record when they play and like watch their screen and try to have them just talk their way through whatever they're doing, just speak what they're thinking about. And it does so much, because you'll think, oh, they'll clearly just walk straight in a straight line here, because whatever. And they just do not do that. and you ask them why, and they'll say they saw something or heard something, or they were scared of bad guys or whatever it might be. And then you just collect all that information and try to translate it to what you're trying to achieve. So it's tough, but it's really like, you can't trust yourself. You know, I think Boom talked about being beat up by the troll real bad. I was worried that it was going to be super easy in the demo. And a lot of people were like, this guy's like super hard. And so that was like a big kind of eye opener for me, but I've got hundreds of hours in the game, so it's easy. It's hard for me to get beat by him. But I have to pay. It's another thing to pay attention to. But testing, feedback is like everything. And even if it's just one person, you will learn a ton.
So do you, I'm sorry, let me ask, tangent off of that. So do you enjoy watching the streams that people, you know, did while playing the demo, and probably like whenever your game releases, will you be watching some of those streams just to see exactly what you just said? Like, oh man, yeah, this person is playing this way or a certain style rather than what I had in mind. Yeah.
It's definitely, I can watch a couple and then I start getting really nervous about it. You know, if someone's like playing pretty well, then it's like easier. But the second someone starts struggling, like I'll watch it later analytically, but it is really hard to like watch. It's because, you know, it's just like your own stuff and you're like, oh gosh, please.
Right.
Yeah, no, because I've done that before. Like I've given it to the kids. I've done things like that. And then you kind of want to tell them like, no, but look over here. Right. Yeah. I had another question, but go on, because here it is. Why did you go with Unreal over Unity, just as a single developer? What was there any decision making there, or is it just what you were used to?
I actually wasn't overly used to either one. Unreal seemed to just be an easier thing to start, and that got me going. And then the blueprints were super clean and easy for me to understand. I think Unreal has a visual editor like that, or a plugin for it, but Unreal's was just built in, and I really wanted to push visual fidelity, and Unreal's kind of just known for that a little bit more. Not that Unity can't make things look really, really good. And it just sort of kept going, and it was feeling okay, so I just didn't stop. But I know both of them are super powerful, so.
Does Unreal use C# or?
I think it's C++. Okay. But I barely touch that stuff. So blueprints are everything.
Got it.
Excellent. You know, Mag, let's get you in on the conversation.
Sir.
Do you have any questions for Joe regarding anything that has to do with Song of Iron?
You know, it's interesting. You guys actually pretty much covered all the questions I was going to ask. But there's two things. One humorous. Joe, in the chat, we have a couple of female listeners, and they actually said that you're very cute. So I just wanted to point that out. And I'm not even kidding right now. I looked at the chat, and they're like, Joe's cute. I'm like, oh my goodness. Anyhow, I did have one actual serious question. I was wondering, did the pandemic or continuing pandemic, I know that you're working on this, a lot of the work you're doing yourself, but did you face any difficulties or any challenges not being able to, let's say, see people in person, bring your bring your product to someone and just stand there and say, hey, give this a try, or you know what I mean? Like any kind of collaboration Did you have any difficulties with that, or do you still face difficulties with that?
Honestly, and it's weird to say, the pandemic helped me a lot in this case.
Really?
It's sort of, it's 2 hours a day that I wasn't commuting when I was doing both 3 for 3 in this, and so that was 2 more hours that I could work on it a day. The delay of E3 last year gave me time to be in E3, even though it was for like 3 seconds in the pre-show. That kind of like put it on the map for a lot of Xbox people that just had no clue, and that was like the announcement that it was coming to Xbox. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been in the show. So there's a lot of little stuff like that, and then it would be great for shows like live shows to be going, and I could be bringing it to them and stuff. But never having done it before, I don't know what I'm missing, so it doesn't feel too much like I'm missing out. But maybe when it's all back to normal and I get to do shows for this or the next one or something, I'll be like, oh wow, it would have been so much easier or whatever. But because it's just me, it's just sort of been pretty simple, honestly.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
good. Well, that's good to hear. Good to hear.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. Great questions. Crispy, let's get you. I know that you jumped in at the last minute, brother, but do you have any questions you might want to ask Joe before we start talking about some Resident Evil?
Well, I mean, it's actually cool because I'm definitely interested in Song of Iron. I look at the game and, it presented to me, it looks like something that I've never seen. I see like the colors with the background, with the shadows and everything else. One question I have is are you trying to bring a different gravity to the gameplay or the fighting mechanics in that game to really make it feel visceral, even though it's a side scroller?
Yeah, I think my animation background, which is what I did for the last 15 years, has been a huge part of what's helping me, I think, kind of get exactly that thing across. I want people to feel really immersed in the world, and I think animation, because that's my thing, I think that really helps a lot, and that like lets people believe the world is real if motion is real. And so I've been really pushing combat to feel super visceral and all that, and then on top of the animation, I've been trying to make combat something that's very intuitive. So the drop kick, which everybody likes, just came from a kick. And then you go, well, if I'm jumping and I do it, what happens? A slightly altered version. I have an axe. Shouldn't I be able to throw it? Yeah, absolutely. Throw the axe. And a bunch of other little stuff like that. And I think all of that together is sort of making it feel surprisingly different than other games, which it was never really the intent. But I just want you to jump in and feel like you're at a bar and the fight starts and you're breaking chairs over people's heads and throwing, beer bottles across the room and stuff. And that's really like one of the mentalities that I ask myself, if I'm still in the barroom brawl vibe, and if I am, then I'm in a good place.
You sold me. You sold me. Just I've already seen it, but you sold me. Just in what you just said right there. Awesome, dude. Awesome.
Now, real quick, Joel. I don't think a lot of people know this about the game itself, but this is actually being built as a trilogy. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was another one of those little things I tried to do to scope myself. Was I had a story, came from the D&D campaign, and I knew it was going to be a big one, or it felt like big, so I chopped it up. And if everything goes well here, then hopefully we'll get 2 and 3. But
nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. That it almost. I mean, again, I don't want you to blush on camera, but it's very George Lucas-esque, because when he wrote Star Wars, he wrote this giant, epilogue, right? This giant story that he wound up cutting down into the films that we have today. And to know that, again, that the whole story derives from your D&D, which we obviously know campaigns can be huge, right? So campaigns could last a year if you have a good DM, right? And like I said, I've been telling, we were talking in the green room before we went live. Song of Iron is one of my most anticipated games, simply because, not just because I got a chance to have you on the show, and just because I got a chance to interview you. It is something that's right up my alley. It is a 2D single player, story driven, adult themed narrative type of game that gives the player what seems to be a lot of choice. Now, one other thing I want to just kind of ask you, What about the RPG esque system with the game? Are you going to be able to level up the character? Are you going to carry different weapons? Are the weapons breakable, like in Breath of the Wild?
Yeah, so I mean, I really appreciate comparing me to George Lucas. That's something else. Yeah, I'll take 1% of that if I can. And we'll see how it goes. I mean, that's actually a really good comparison. I think remembering some of the original Star Wars movies and how actually pretty simple they are. I mean, you start on Tatooine and you fly to the the Death Star, and then that's sort of the first movie, right? It's really simple. There's not very many stuff that happens or like major events, and that's really what I'm after. And then the trilogy then adds kind of the depth to it. The RPG wise, there's actually pretty little of it. What I'm after is a little bit more like a Mega Man X style.
Okay, excellent.
There's there's one helmet out in the world that you have to go find that. There's one chest armor. There's one, there's a gauntlet for each arm, and there's boots. And as you find them, that's how you're leveling up, is you're getting this gear. The gear holds all of your magic. So the flaming sword or flaming axes and the lightning arrows and all that stuff, that comes from the gear. So you never have to worry about keeping hold of like the fire axe +1 or something. It's just one of more of the many axes. Pick it up, light it on fire, fight, throw it, whatever you want to do. Pick the next thing up, light that on fire.
Nice.
What I really like the Breath of the Wild system, but I know a lot of people hate the sort of like losing the items they really like. So I kind of just got rid of that part of it, and I put all the cool effects on the permanent gear. And then you're not scared to like spend it in every combat. And I think so many of my trailers and my gameplay is like I'm firing arrows and throwing axes all over the place. That feels really fun. So I didn't want you to ever like not want to do that. So yeah, and then there's a little bit of leveling up. Just like you'll get some stat increases, but it's all about simplicity. I'm just trying to get you through, and I want you just to have fun the whole time and not worry about menus or picking the wrong skill or anything like that. It's just like I'm giving you the sandbox, and I'll give you a little bit more stuff along the way, and hopefully you have fun.
Nice. That sounds awesome. That definitely sounds awesome. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that appreciate your ideology in, again, Breath of the Wild is an epic masterpiece in so many ways. I spent so much time cooking in that game. It could have been its own cooking game, right? That's how much fun I had with it. But I think one of the biggest complaints, I didn't personally have a problem with it, but the breaking weapons. And the fact that you realized that before you made the game, and you're like, yeah, I kind of want people just to enjoy themselves and not worry about that. That is tremendously forward thinking. And it just goes to show you that you definitely are a master of your craft, because that is something that a lot of people enjoyed the game and loved the game, but hated that aspect about it. But listen, again, I know we can't talk release date. We can't. We know it's coming in 2021 for sure. But my last question to you is, because you're doing this on your own, where do the nerve factors get into as you get close to this game? Because we've talked with Everborn. He's self-proclaimed like yourself. He created the Everborn saga. He's doing, like he told you, everything himself. He launched a very successful campaign to get people to back it, and it went really well. How does that make you feel as you're getting closer? Because as you're putting it together, it's just a job. It's something you want to do, but now it's getting real.
Yeah, it definitely is nerve-wracking. I think there's so many little things to get done to release, getting all the achievements and like making sure it's working on all the systems and all this sort of little stuff. And that list is like long and hard to know until you find all the pieces to it. And so it's like the fear is, what don't I know that I'm going to have to do really quickly to get there? But luckily that demo taught me a ton. So I do feel like I generally know everything I need, minus a couple little things that I know about. And then, I'm super happy that everybody's excited. It's so nerve-wracking. Just being afraid that like I've done a bad job of, being true to the game in the way I speak about it. I try very hard to only ever say exactly what's going on, and talking about playtime and what the systems are and all that kind of stuff. And I just hope that I just really hope people like it.
Oh,
I just can't know until it's in everybody's hands.
Well, listen, we look forward to it when it releases later on in 2021. I cannot wait to see how the people are going to respond, and I believe that people are going to respond in a big way. You've been the talk of the town in the community for quite some time because, like I told you privately, and I'll say it publicly, you definitely have something special here, and I honestly cannot thank you enough for not only being a part of today's show, but giving me the chance to interview you and help promote this incredible title that I think a lot of people are going to dig. But I want to move on to the next topic. But before I do, I want to catch up with some of these outstanding super chats. First of all, the first one of the night comes to us from Tim Swoop, who drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, "Hey, Boom, been waiting to watch and listen to the podcast all day, and your panel are awesome. Everyone like and subscribe to this amazing channel." Well, Tim, thank you so much for the generosity, but more importantly, brother, thank you for the very kind words. Isaac Gentry in the chat drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, "Hey, Boom, just wanted to say thanks for keeping the positivity in the community." Well, dude, it's an honor. Thank you for the generosity, but thank you for the compliment as well. And I think we had another one pop in here. Let me see if I could find it real quick. Okay, yeah, new type Gunpla. I think we know who that guy is. He's a part of the panel. He is, unfortunately, we're talking about Tempest Son, is not going to be able to make it. He is really getting stuck with work. But of course, he drops a $5 super chat and says, "Workday from hell is keeping me from the show right now, but kill it, fellas." Well, thank you so much, Tempest. Definitely, we'll see you next week for sure. But folks, we got to move on to Game of the Year 2021. Should I actually say that? First of all, Joe, I want to go to you first because as a developer, you get a chance to work with studios like 343, which you did, which is, again, that you should write a book one day because that's pretty epic. And then you're making your own game, which is incredible. But when you see Capcom, a company that was founded in 1976, like they've been around a very, very, very long time, and obviously they've released a ridiculous amount of Resident Evils over the years, and of course some have been fantastic, some have been not so fantastic, and they've reinvented the wheel with Resident 7, and then obviously it won a ton of awards. It was the first time Resident Evil, the main series, was in first person. And here we are playing, as you can see on the screen, Resident Evil Village. And I got to say, and not only am I having a blast, I think everyone on the panel is having a blast. Are you happy to see games that have such long teeth, like Resident Evil, still be a valuable piece of the community in a big way?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like Resident Evil and Zelda, which we've talked about, Final Fantasy, they're all these like amazing examples of games that don't have to just be direct sequels all the time, and so they can play with stuff. I mean, Resident Evil is like gone through ebbs and flows constantly. All of those games have. Resident Evil 4 was huge, and that kind of like came out of nowhere and became one of the best games, and it's awesome because I think too the developers have some level of like ground to stand on already, but then they can try new stuff knowing they've got this sort of core thing, and I think that's like a really powerful thing, and it's nice that Capcom lets them experiment with the IP and push it in different directions, and that's awesome. I think it's really good.
Now, have you had a chance to play RE8 yet, or no?
Unfortunately not. I haven't had a chance to play much. I've got a lot of catching up to do once I'm done with some.
But you know what? I knew the answer, but I had wanted to ask anyway. I mean, obviously you're making a game. I mean, you barely have time to eat, let alone play games on top of that. But listen, I appreciate the honesty. And yeah, I agree with you. I think that when you see something like Resident Evil 8, because listen, there were a lot of people that were after Resident 6. People didn't know what to expect with 7. Right, 7 came out and it shocked the world in the best way possible because 6 was so terrible. 6 tried to be an action movie and Resident Evil and 3 other things at the same time. And sometimes when you try to do too many things, it like anything, it ruins the broth when you try to put too much stuff in there. And that's what wound up happening with Resident 6. And unfortunately, they were able to rebound with 7. A lot of people were worried about 8 because, when you're talking about vampires and lichens, you're like, well, that's not really the Resident Evil I grew up with.
Yeah.
But I'm here to tell you that it all makes sense. You just have to play the game. I want to get to the panel, though. And I want to go to Mag first. Mag, you have been raving about Resident Evil Village, like I think even more so than me. Mm-hmm. And did you beat the game? How far have you gotten? And is it your game of the year 2021?
So far, if you could believe this, I would put this in so far. My top 2 games of 2021 are Resident Evil 8 and Outriders.
Nice.
And I know Outriders is not a very popular opinion, but I got to tell you, I got that 1,000 out of 1,000 on it, and I adored that game.
I loved every minute of that game. Yeah,
I adored it. And anyways, I'm done with that. But anyways, Resident Evil. I was there day 1 when I walked into Video Games Plus, and I looked up at the wall, and there was like the old bubble TV. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what the hell are you playing, dude? Because it was just like, like the old days, just had a dude sitting behind the counter smoking and like playing a video game, 90s. And he's like, oh, man, I'm playing this new game called Resident Evil, man. You got to buy it. And I'm like, okay. And I just bought it for my PlayStation 1. And fast forward 25 years, and here we are. And it hasn't lost its potency with me at all, except for Resident Evil 6, just like you said. But Resident Evil 7 brought it back so hard that you just get that amnesia about Resident Evil 6. You know what I mean? You just forget it happened. And I'm just like, you know what? Resident Evil is back. It's better than ever. The first person view thing is incredible. Anyways, Resident Evil 8. I've been waiting since they announced this. I had a candle in my window waiting for this game. It's finally here. And let me tell you something, Boom. I have not beat it. And you ready for this travesty? I am 7.5 hours in, and I just finished the first boss.
Dude, that's okay because you're a completist. You like to check every nook and cranny. I agree.
Now, here's the thing: I am literally staring at the walls. My wife came downstairs and I was playing, right, and I'm looking at the artwork. I swear to God, when you're walking upstairs on the second floor, I'm not going to get any. By the way, no spoilers, anyone, please. So I'm going to avoid the chat too because I literally just finished the first boss. That's it. However, I went upstairs and I'm looking around and I'm looking at all the detailed, ornate decorations on the walls. And my wife comes down. She goes, "What are you doing?" I wasn't moving. And I'm like, "I'm looking at the wall sconces." And she's like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Look." I'm like, someone spent 400 hours drawing that. Okay. I go, look at that. Look at the wall. And it's unbelievable. And the funny thing is, I tried to find patterns, right? I tried to see if there were any patterns. There were no patterns. They were all individually carved, or well, in this case, drawn. But you know what I'm saying? Like they were all designed individually. It looked like they were hand painted, for Christ's sake. And I'm just sitting here like the detail in this game is remarkable. The ray tracing is excellent. The gameplay itself is excellent. It's exactly what I wanted. And the thing is, the bigger thing is, it still feels like Resident Evil. It's got that quirkiness, a little bit of weirdness, a little bit of wildness, a little bit of scariness. But the one thing that it has never lost is its atmosphere. And so some people that know me is that I am a 1950s, 1960s horror buff. Like, I'm talking Vincent Price. Boom, you know this. Like the Vincent Price stuff, House of Wax, give me House on Haunted Hill. I want the whole movie to be like, Gothic sets with 3 feet of fog on the ground. You know what I'm saying? Right. And then like, you got the guy with the fog machine behind the camera blowing it, and there goes Vincent Price walking out, or Christopher Lee, that kind of stuff, right? So this is right up my alley. Right? This is what I enjoy. This is what I love. And I walk into this game, and it is exactly what I wanted. It is exactly what I expected. And at the same time, it still feels like Resident Evil. But at the same time, I said that twice, it feels like a new experience. And it doesn't feel like Resident Evil 4. Some people are like, it's just Resident Evil 4 just now. And I'm like, not really. It doesn't have the same vibe to me, right? And that's the way I feel about it. But anyways, so far, like I said, I'm about 7.5 hours in, and I literally finished the first boss because I am soaking this in because I know it's going to be another 4 or 5 years before we get another one. So that's always my deepest fear, right? I play the game and I'm just like, oh my God, I don't want you to end. Then I have to wait another 4 years, for what I would presume would be some kind of a trilogy or something, maybe a first-person trilogy. Who the hell knows? But that's kind of where I am. So I'm taking it in. I'm drinking it like a fine wine, just like sipping away room by room and just breaking down everything. And I just absolutely adore it. The enemies are great. They're varied. The bosses are wonderful. The dialogue is good. There's only one thing with the dialogue. Sorry, there's only one thing I'm going to say, and it's completely spoiler-free for anybody. There's 2 things that Ethan Winters says that I absolutely had to drop the controller. I couldn't stop laughing. At one point, like the dialogue's great, well written, well acted, except for this 2 lines. One line he says, "Why does everybody just keep dying on me?" And I almost pissed my pants because it seemed like he was almost like he broke the 4th wall there. You know what I mean? Like kind of just talking to us.
Mag, you read my mind right there. I was listening to the
you remember that line? And it's almost like a Ferris Bueller's Day Off moment.
It's like right before you go into the castle for the first time when
that
person, I don't want to give spoilers, but yeah.
It's just like a Ferris Bueller's Day Off moment where he's just like, why does everybody just keep dying on me? And I almost pissed myself. And the other one was, and I know it was meant to have more gravitas and some more gravity to it, but it came out funny when Ethan Winters just says, "Do your worst." And I'm like, come on, Ethan. I could have written some better dialogue. But besides that, the game is magnificent. And it has a little bit of cheese in it, which I think is obviously deliberate to some extent. Now,
I mean, it's Resident Evil for crying out loud.
It's Resident Evil, right? But I haven't got to the end of the story because I have some suspicions about some weird things that have happened, which are not possible, generally speaking. And I'm like, that can't happen. How did that happen? But I'm like, maybe it'll be explained. So I'm not going to say anything more. I just say that I absolutely adore it. And so far, like I said, tied with Outriders would have to be my 2 games of the year thus far.
Yeah, well, nothing wrong with that. Sounds fantastic. Everborn Saga, let's get your opinion on Resident Evil Village. How far have you gotten, and are you as excited as we are to finish this game, and then probably start it immediately right after?
Well, I'm going to tell you, this is the most excited I've been about a Resident Evil game in, I don't know, nearly a decade, because I didn't play 7. I wasn't actually on board with the switch to first person because I didn't feel like I liked that they were changing the story, but I didn't think that like they needed to go first person to do that. But I've always respected that they were willing to do that, right? Because that's how these franchises that we've grown up with, right, over the better part of 3 decades. This is one of them where it is different every time. They're not locked in, right, to any specific type of gameplay, and I respect them. I respect them for that, right? That they were willing to take that risk. And I was one of the Luddites that skipped 7. So this is my first person Resident Evil, and I have been blown away thus far. The performances, the atmosphere, it looks really great. I'm playing with the ray tracing on. Seems like I'm getting 60 FPS most of the time. Another thing is, I don't know if it's just me, but I really feel like they have captured the essence of Resident Evil 1, like the first one.
Yeah.
With this, just the way the castle is set up, that sense of exploration, the inventory system, it really like I have the same feelings. Like, and Resident Evil has always been one for corny lines, Mag. I'm sure you remember you were almost a Jill sandwich, right? Which may be the greatest line in all of video games. Now, the other thing is, and I hear the game is now, Mag, you said you've been in it for 7 hours, but I hear you can run through it in 8 hours if you kind of like beeline your way through. No.
Travesty. That's a slap to the face of the developers, in my opinion. Soak it in, man. Soak in the hard work that these guys put in. That's what I say.
No, I want to explore, but what I'm saying is I'm not holding that as a knock against it because I'm one of those people who doesn't think every game needs to be 200 hours where 80 of those or 100 of those 200 hours are fetch quests, right? Like everything feels like it has a narrative purpose here, and I love it for that. So, and then I like I'm maybe like 2 hours into it. Like I haven't gotten to the first boss yet, but I'm inside the castle, and I'm looking for some kind of a key, which I'll find that. But like I cannot say enough about it. And the game of the year so far talk, yes. And the funny thing is, like, and I know maybe we'll talk about this later. Another game I really loved this year was Returnal, which now, because of all the issues it's having, like this has taken that spot. And I don't want to go back to that because I was going to wait until they ironed out the bugs. But now this is here, and I feel like this is going to take up all my time. And then, maybe Ratchet and Clank will be out later. So if I'm rating this thing so far, it's a 9 out of 10 for me. Like I love it. It's great, and it just feels like the Resident Evil I remember.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Let's get Cyber of Iron in here. Cyber, I like that change real quick. Have you had a chance to play Resident Evil Village yet?
So I unfortunately have not because I don't want to it, but because I'm on the same camp as Everborn. I haven't played 7 yet. I have 7. And I was speaking to Mac.
I could see the hashtags cancel Cyber of Iron.
Exactly.
We've already got 2 frauds in the chat.
I literally,
Carry on, Cyber.
I spoke to Mag about this. I was like, hey man, I haven't played 7 yet. And as soon as I said I haven't played 7, he said, hey, my Tony Baloney is coming out, eh? What are you doing? Reaches off across the phone and like literally smacks me upside the head. It's like, what are you doing?
I told him to start it immediately. It's in Game Pass, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
I bought it when it came out.
Oh, okay.
So I
did too, by the way.
First.
That's the story of my life, buying games just to say I got them, and then
I know, man,
they go into back.
Tough. But it's great to see how much the success that has happened with the release of or Village, let's say, has done for the franchise, right? Like we've seen a crazy number on I think I don't know if you mentioned it, Boom.
Yeah, no, we're actually I'm gonna, it's funny you should say that. Before let me just read the stats.
Yeah,
and then I had you come back into it, folks. If you're wondering if Resident Evil is getting long in the tooth, if you're wondering if this has any legs left in the franchise, let me break down some numbers for you that's basically proven that not only is Resident Evil bigger than it's ever been, I think it even surprised Capcom. The franchise, according to numerous numbers that I was able to pull from Twitch and Steam, broke records respectively. Most sales on Steam of a Resident Evil game ever, and it was the biggest Twitch success in what seems like years. They had 100,000 concurrent players on Steam, making it the biggest PC launch in the history of the franchise. It destroyed Twitch records. And here's some numbers for you, folks. It had 600,000, right? And that record was previously held by Resident Evil 2 Remake at 314K, and then it's followed, and then slightly above that was Resident Evil 3 Remake, which topped out at 318,000 concurrent, and it doubled that, folks. It's currently holding an 85 on Metacritic on PC. It's an 84 on PS5, and for some very strange reason, it's an 82 on the Xbox Series X. And it only has 6 posted reviews. Like I don't understand why only 6 reviews for the Xbox version, which is the superior version, and that's proven. But again, this is it's the media we're talking about, and Cyber. When you hear those numbers, do you see Resident Evil slowing down anytime soon?
Absolutely not, and I think it's extremely smart, and I think Joe touched on this a little bit, that Capcom have gotten themselves a great strategy with the Resident Evil franchise between going from first person to third person. I think they feel kind of like two different games, you know, or even almost as two different genres when you're playing from first person to third person. But the atmosphere and the ambiance and everything is still there, you know, as a Resident Evil game. And the numbers you said, Broom, they're completely astronomical. They're amazing numbers, and it just goes to show you like how much gamers are actually starving for some of these bigger AAA games. Like if you think about it, this year, um, Outriders is the only AAA game that released this year so far. Is that correct? Or
I know.
am
I
missing
mean,
Well,
another one?
MLB the show is that.
Oh, MLB the show too,
Yeah.
sure, but that's very, you know. So I will say that, however, like some of these numbers can be a bit deceptive, not just because the franchise is not doing great, but for what I said, so many people are looking just to get their hands on a big AAA game, and I think the stars lined up for Resident Evil, and I think it's something that the franchise is really going to benefit from, because the more people play this game, the more they enjoy it, the more you see people talking about it. They love the villains in this game. Lady
Yeah.
D, people is talking about her, cosplayers all over the place. So yeah, man, this game, I think it has the highest peak player, kind of like what you mentioned, ever for the Resident Evil franchise in the Resident Evil franchise history. So it continues to peak on player counts for a Capcom game. So no, this franchise is not slowing down. It could potentially just get bigger and bigger after this release.
yeah, no, 100%.
Here's a question maybe for everybody. Actually, two questions. But do we think that like maybe more franchises should try things like that, especially like the ones we grew up with? So like, let's say, I don't know, the next Gears is a first person, or the next Halo after Infinite is a third person, whatever. Like just completely jump outside of the way people know it, but still respecting the essence of it.
Well,
Like,
look at
could
God
we
of
see that with any other?
Absolutely.
Like, look at God of War. Even though it wasn't as drastic, I mean, it was third person to third person. But essentially, if you look at the first three God of Wars, or whatever, 6 of them, if you include the little side games, those were essentially like 2D/3D. You know what I mean? They were almost
Right.
side scrollers in a way, so to speak, whatever. But or almost like Crash Bandicoot kind of idea, right? But I mean, like, look at that. Look what they did there. And then they kind of reinvented God of War, and then it kind of went in a different direction because you know what? You could use a fresh take. Why not? But I think, but with the Resident Evil situation, going from third person to first person has increased that fear factor, because now I'm afraid to open doors.
Yeah.
Where like when I'm, you know what I mean? Like when you're
Yeah, I
playing
always
Resident
feel
Evil,
like I'm gonna turn around and there's gonna be like a lichen or one of these
or you
Lady
hear
Dominatrix
something
people,
behind
yeah.
you. Right.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if you hear something behind you in some of the old Resident Evils, you actually saw the dude because you could see your character standing right in front of you. Right. So you know, it kind of takes it away. Like it almost feels like you're watching at that point, at least for that kind of genre. Right. But
No.
then when you enter first person, holy.
Yeah,
And-
you know what?
And they're gonna make Resident Evil 4 for the Quest in VR, which I'm
Yes.
super
Day
excited
one,
for.
baby.
We'll see. Joe, let's get your opinion on that question. Do you think that other big time franchises need to potentially take a chance like Resident Evil? See, I think that the reason why they went to first person was out of being backed into a corner necessity, because 6 failed so bad. And they hadn't had a big. I mean, like 5, I loved it, but it didn't you know do it for a lot of people. The last big big game for them was Resident 4, so it was a while before they had a hit. Do you think other people should, other developers or publishers should take a chance like this?
Absolutely. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be switching perspectives. I mean, I bet this game is almost as good in third person. I mean, you know, if we think of like Dead Space, they did a really restricted camera, even though it was third person, and you like the slow turns, and it was just as scary because you couldn't really see around corners, you know. But it's all about taking chances. I think smaller changes. If we look at, and I know Halo pretty well, we look at, you know, Reach or ODST, like those were departures to an extent from the core, and those are thought of as really good entries into the system. I would love to see more stuff like that. You know, there's so many of these IPs have these huge worlds, and there's no reason you don't put a small team on a smaller piece of the IP to try stuff out, go crazy, and then use what you learn on the next major iteration. I mean, like, games need to be able to learn constantly, and that part of that fear is all this money into this new stuff. Let a 20-man team work on, you know, some side project of the universe, try some crazy stuff out, bring it into the main line later.
Hey, Joe, you
I
know,
think that'd be awesome.
On that note, something I always wanted to see, because I feel like Locke got a bad rap in Guardians, but I wish they would have made Nightfall instead of a Netflix series, or however it was released in the Master Chief Collection first, I think. But I wish Nightfall was like a third-person Dead Space kind of game with Locke in it. Just something in the Halo universe, but a complete departure. And it doesn't have to take away from the main Master Chief campaigns, but I really feel like it's a great character that people should appreciate a little bit more.
Now, I don't mean to go on a little Halo tangent right now, but you threw that volleyball up. Locke, I kind of I agree with you. He could have been a very interesting character. I think, in my personal opinion, it was just they were forcing a new character. They forced this new character into us too fast. You know, they wanted him to be the antagonist to maybe branch him off on another Halo story, on his own journey, you know, just like Master Chief, but we would have Locke would have his own game, kind of like what you said, Everborn. The problem is they forced that into a Master Chief's game, and that didn't work out well.
Having played him sort of in a separate campaign initially, I think really would have changed people's perspective. I think the other thing, and I have to watch myself, I think part of the issue is like there's a perspective that was tried to make him too equal to Chief, and Halo people know, you know, the Spartan 2s versus the Spartan 3s and 4s and stuff, like there's a massive difference, and then having that not really like be a part of the game, and they basically were the exact same, I think it makes him uninteresting because he's the exact same as Chief, just a different character. If you give him his own strengths and weaknesses, then he becomes so much more interesting. And that's just that blue team versus Osiris. And that's like, I always like to see that. You know, you want to see, it's like any magic system that has no drawbacks. It always feels cheap and fake versus something that like costs you something to do. And if we had seen the differences, I think we would have loved all of those characters much better. I felt better about playing as them and stuff.
And something else hurt Locke, and it had nothing to do with them. The marketing for the game.
Yeah,
right? It was presenting a story that like it was just like
wasn't there. Yeah.
I want to see Locke come back, maybe in an ODST type game, something. Locke. I think Locke got a bad rap. I want, you know.
Well, we'll see.
Intro,
I mean, from what we understand, and obviously Joe can't say anything, but we've heard rumors that there's going to be multiple characters outside. Infinite is going to be a 10-year living, breathing thing. It's not just going to be one game, from what we understand. So I'm hoping to listen. I want Craig the Brute to be a character. Like I think they should do a whole backstory for him. Right? He should join the Marines because he wants revenge against. Atriox for killing his parents. I mean, make it a revenge tale. Why not?
I love it.
But listen, let's get Crispy Bomb's opinion on Resident Evil Village, and then we're going to get into the main crux of today's program. Crispy, have you had a chance to play Resident Evil Village yet?
I just want to backtrack real quick off of what Everborn said. Your question was very, very cool, but I also think that the next evolution in perspective would be allowing us to pick. I think that would be a huge thing. And I think for somebody like me that really has only, kind of dipped and dabbed in like Halos and stuff like that, the first person I'm not a huge fan of. I think some games would really open up with me being allowed. And yes, it might be a little messed up at first or whatever. I will take that. Okay. I am not a huge first person fan. I want to be able to see my character, see what's going on around me. That's just, it's a me problem. But that's why I'm like the only reason why Resident Evil right now is like kind of speaking to me is because I'm a huge Underworld fan. A lot of people may not know that franchise.
Yeah.
Okay, but you know, Lycans, vampires, like I'm getting that vibe as I've watched more and more people play it, and it's really not spoiling the story for me because it seems like a brand new story. And trust me, Resident Evil probably got ruined from the movies more than anything from me because like I watch every single one of them and they all didn't make sense. And I'm like, and all these games are coming out and they kind of don't make sense, but then you kind of look back and say, you know, this virus, you could just say, has mutated and allowed certain people to have certain abilities and everything else. Like, it's pretty explainable because of the movies, but at the same time, the movies was always still like zombie-like organisms or whatever. And this more feels like, you know, you're facing like a different scare factor, as I like to say. You know, so something that's totally different from what we're used to. And I mean, from what I've seen, it's definitely interesting. Am I going to buy it for, you know, the full on $70, $60? No, but if it goes on sale for $30, yeah, I'm probably going to pick it up. I mean, I might not finish the game, but I might be playing it. My girlfriend might be watching, be like, I'll finish the game. You know what I mean? So it'll be worth it in the end. But if it grabs me with the way that, you know, this whole underworld vibe I kind of get from it, except it's like the rise of the Lycans underworld, you know what I'm saying? And that's something that, you know, really gravitates towards me because I enjoyed most of those movies. Some of them were a little, you know, far-fetched, but some of them really went into that, you know, vampires versus werewolves type thing. And I really enjoyed that. And for them to be doing this is impressive. I mean, you know, people are loving it. I say, you know, those 5 out of 10s on Metacritic are trash. I think they're bullshit because too many people I respect that would call it out if they didn't like it are saying it's a great game. And, you know, like I said, just because of the first person perspective, wouldn't pick it up for full price, but definitely looking towards it as it drops in price.
Yeah, well,
you're making a really good point, I think, just about like accessibility of games. You know, the idea of like a super easy mode too, right? Like that's not for the average person to play, but if someone's not good at games but they love horror, let them play through this and not worry about needing to restart constantly from death or whatever, right? Like you can say it in there. It's just like, I'm really bad at games. Let me play this, please. Like, that's how easy this is. But, like, it would let people play through this, you know? That would never think about it otherwise. And I think
that's a great point. Absolutely.
I think, yeah, it would be super good for the industry in general to do a lot more of that. And, you know, I'm kind of trying to think of something like that for Song. I think it would be great. Just like a, don't die mode or something. I don't want to die kind of thing. But it's just, you know, most 90% of the people you hope play the intended way. But for the people who, like you, it's just like, I just don't like first-person shooters, so I'm not going to play it. It's like, here's a few options for you, you know, to try to encourage you to play anyway.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point. Listen, folks, this has been a great opening act. You know, first hour we got a chance to hang out with Joe. He's going to hang out with us for the remainder of the program. We're going to get into a really big topic right now. I have to thank a couple of people that dropped super chats in here. Stamps 1646 drops a very generous $10 super chat and says, "RE Engine is a beautiful game engine. Love the panel this evening and topics. Happy days." Well, thank you, Stamps, for being here. And of course, thank you for the generosity. We also had another super chat come in from CYV Studio. They drop a $5 super chat and says, "Great panel. I'm loving Village. I don't know if it's only me, but some moments in the game gave me Metro Exodus vibes. I just love it. Joe, stay humble." Joe will stay humble. Of course, he's going to stay humble. He's a gentleman. But listen, folks. We're going to get into the big topic of the evening, and I saved it for the second half of the show because I wanted people to get in here and, you know, hear what we had to say. Now, obviously, there are several people on this panel that have a lot to say about the information that shocked many people, not only in the gaming community, but in the gaming media. And this information that I'm talking about comes out of the Apple versus Epic court proceedings. And they have unearthed a ton of new information regarding Sony's inability to put players first. Now, as someone who got into the business of content creation because of the way Xbox was being talked about by the media, I find that even though in recent months or even last year or so, the tide is turning thanks to Phil Spencer's community first ideology. Now, PlayStation is not held to the same standards that many topics of tonight's show we're going to be talking about. It seems to be an industry that allows Sony to do things that if it were Xbox, and again, I don't want to turn this into an us versus them. Unfortunately, we're going to have to talk about this because the first thing that jumps off the page is the way Jim Ryan's PlayStation, and of course I say Jim Ryan's because he is the head of PlayStation, handled crossplay, and how they're the only company in the entire gaming space charging for the ability to play with new and old friends across multiple platforms. Now, what I want to do is I want to pull up in my DMs. I actually sent it to myself. I want to read that letter that was unearthed during these proceedings. And this was Epic writing to PlayStation. It says, "We love working with PlayStation and we want this to be a win-win. The longer this drags out, it will be less so. I can't think of a scenario where Epic doesn't get what we want. That possibility went out the door when Fortnite became the biggest game on your platform. Here's what I propose. We give you the data you're asking for, plus the marketing data ask. Epic deeply integrates Sony's esports API into the Unreal Engine 4 as an engine-level feature. We market and advertise it as a first-class citizen of the engine, maybe E3 announcement, and we support it in Fortnite. We announce crossplay in conjunction with Sony. Epic goes out of its way to make Sony look like the heroes. You get to pick when, where, and how. Epic brands its E3 presence with PlayStation. We're planning a 100-player Celebrity Pro AM, and after a huge after party. Budgets I've seen are huge, and it will be the biggest event at E3 ever. Maybe we announce with all of the celebs on stage the new partnership. Epic's willing to explore more items. Maybe we commit to a game at launch of your next VR platform. PlayStation Plus. Maybe we do something extra special for a month or for a unique character or something highly valuable to drive PlayStation Plus adoption rates even more. Epic extends the Sony company-wide Unreal Engine 4 license. I don't think I've mentioned this before, but your license to use Unreal Engine 4 expires in May of 2019. That license has some of the best terms we've ever offered for the Unreal Engine 4. And lastly, as they close out this email, let's make this a huge win for all of us. Epic's not changing its mind on the issue, so let's just agree on it now.
Can we just take one moment to acknowledge the terror tactics from Tim Sweeney in every one of these emails? Like, I don't know, man. He just, I will get into it. I'm sorry. Like,
no.
Everyone you read, he's let's
go to you first on this, because you wrote to me privately, and one of the things, as you saw in this thumbnail that I put together, was the fact that Sony is one of the is a company that, let's say, let me just give up some examples. With all of the issues that Returnal is currently having, and of course I feel terrible for Housemarque, because obviously they're an indie developer. I really think that they should have already been purchased or added to SIE permanently as a first-party studio. That has not happened as of yet. They still refuse to give refunds for this game. Several people in the community posted conversations that they had with customer service who outright refused, even though the game is broken and has been broken for quite some time. It's pretty unbelievable how quickly the swift removal of CD Projekt Red's Cyberpunk 2077 came, and they refused to pull Returnal off the store, even though it's still broken. Obviously, we've heard the recent announcement after the Epic Apple battle that's still going on, that SIE LLC is being sued for operating an unlawful monopoly by restricting purchases of PlayStation games to its in-house store. And this is what comes out of a claim filed by the people. This was a proposed class action lawsuit because Sony does not allow you to buy any games outside of PSN, meaning Amazon, Best Buy, Walmart. They do not sell download codes for PlayStation games, and obviously PlayStation is making money on if you buy them digital versus when you buy them for the disc. It's sometimes you get good sales, and Sony does not want to see that happen. Where do you want to attack this from, Everborn?
I mean, so there's several things, right? Like, because I'm not super happy. Like, okay, like as a I guess we can call ourselves pundits, right? As a pundit in the space, I'm like super interested to see these backdoor dealings, but like everybody's dirty laundry is getting aired out, and like I'm just wondering how, because this is Epic versus Apple. I'm wondering how Sony and Microsoft feel like being dragged into all this. I know Microsoft wanted to be there because like they kind of have a vested interest in this somehow, because I feel like Microsoft is using this as a proxy to sort of go after Apple to get xCloud, to get that xCloud restriction moved, because Apple has their own sort of, and you don't want to get me started on Apple and their sort of anti-consumer practices, right? So so I'm not going to go there. But my point is, everyone's dragged into it, and now Sony's dragged into it. And like in every one of those emails, it seems like it was just a bunch of assholes talking to each other, except for Phil. Phil came off super nice in all of the emails that got released, which is because it's like, if you've ever met him like at an E3 or anything like that, like he sounds in those emails exactly the way he sounds in an interview, or if you bump into him at a show. And I think that's super cool. So that's the way that's the cool thing about it. Now, I say this every week, right? It ain't show friends, it's show business, right? And the only people that are going to show Sony that this shit isn't cool is going to be us, right? Whether, because voting with your dollar is the only thing that matters, right? So now, in regards to the cross-play payment thing, I've never heard of anything like that, and I don't know why Epic would agree to that. Because what does that say? That says, okay, hey, if you want to do crossplay, you have to open your books to us, show us every dollar you made, and then give us money if we're losing anything from it, right? So that to me is crazy, and it's also I don't like I have things to say about Sony broader, which I think we will come to, but like I feel like we don't know. There could be some backdoor Xbox deals that we might not be like super excited about if we heard about it. So these backdoor deals happen all the time, and I think it's kind of unfortunate for them. It's hilarious to me because I'm reading all these emails. I'm watching Hogue Law break these things down with popcorn, right? I love it. But for them, I don't know that anybody comes out except for Phil. Phil came out looking lovely after this, but everybody else, man, this thing's nasty, and it's gonna get worse, right? So I want to put a pin in it there. I think that don't ever think that Sony is there for you. Like the first time I was on this show, my first guest appearance, I said Sony's approach really is, we got the games, you want the games, F you, right?
Right.
That's it. So I want to pause there, but I'm going to jump back in because I want to see where this goes. But this is not unexpected.
You know, Joe, I want to bring you into the conversation. Obviously, from a developer's point of view, we understand that it's a business at the end of the day. Like, you know, we talk about, you know, we come to these podcasts and we talk about our love of, you know, game X or company X. This lawsuit really dragged in just about everybody. Like, I did not see this happening. And I'm former law enforcement, right? So I dealt with criminal law. I never dealt with civil law. It just wasn't my thing. But to see Microsoft, to see Sony be brought into the mix of this, where they actually had to go and have people there testifying for them. What were your thoughts about the way they handle crossplay? Because based on the facts, and again, this is not a suggestion, folks, this is actual documentation that I read through. Sony was and still is against crossplay. They want you playing on their console. They don't care about anyone else's. And to see that they're actually charging, I'm actually surprised that Epic went along with it. To be honest with you, I mean, you heard in the email, he said there really isn't a situation where we don't get what we want, because it's Epic and it's Fortnite and it is the biggest game on PlayStation. Were you surprised by a lot of the information that came out of this?
Yes and no. I mean, I think you know, in a lot of ways, like Xbox is already like way ahead of the game when it comes to this stuff, and so they've kind of like seen the future, and they're choosing to work with everybody. I mean Nintendo also allowed crossplay because they, you know, it's hard to be Nintendo and not like encourage everybody to be friends, because that's kind of like their secret
thing.
MO, you know.
Yeah.
I think Sony probably thought that they were big enough that they could, and probably were afraid and thought that the change was wrong, like the change to lower commission fees and all that stuff. And they probably thought that they could bully the industry to stay in the same kind of path and go back to, you know, being more isolated. And I think they were afraid of losing all that income. And so, you know, they thought that they could enforce people to go through their store. It's the same thing with just the e-store in general, like not letting digital things be sold anywhere else. I think they're afraid of like every percentage being lost. And in the meantime, you know, Xbox is dropping Windows Store commissions from 30% to 12% to, you know, with that developers are going to need to pay. And they're choosing to let all ships rise with the tide, and Sony is still fighting for every single penny to come to them. That's how it appears, at least, and I'm not super educated on the topic, so it's unfortunate. I think there's some stuff in there for like smaller developers where like you only have to pay if you have X amount of people playing or something like that. But It's unfortunate. I really wish that they would, and the whole industry, I really hope kind of lowers that commission fee to depending on the platforms and stuff. But because I think the average is like 30%, and that's a ton, especially for someone like myself or you know, any of the smaller indie devs. 30% of income could mean the difference between you know, sequel or no sequel. So it feels really not great for Sony, and I really wish that they would, you know, play ball with everybody. So yeah, it's tough.
Yeah,
I mean,
to that 130% point, because I know a lot of us will say it doesn't matter, and this goes across the board, right? Because on the Xbox, it's still 30% for now. We've seen some other things that said maybe that could change in the future, even though they said maybe not. Like
Steam also.
the consumer is paying that fee, right? Because like the developer has to mark up the cost of what they may want to sell a product for to account for that cost, right? So it does cost you as the gamer if you think it doesn't matter. It may not be that like, okay, the game was, let's say a game's $10. It's not like if the fee was different, that you know that you're going to pay the same. I think anyone is going to build in costs, like cost to go to production, into whatever selling price they have. So those things are factored in. So it does cost cost us more. Sorry, I just wanted to add that in.
Well, no, what I wanted to kind of go on Joe's point here is that we the reason why Epic Games dropped it from 12 because they're competing with the biggest PC game place to buy games in Steam, right? Steam still charges 30%. Steam is in everyone's household. Everyone loves Steam, right? And they launched the Epic Game Store because they had a dream that they wanted to do what Steam was doing on top of already the game development and how much money they were making hand over fist with Fortnite, and they can and still continue to make money on that game. The 12% Microsoft conversation, I think what wound up happening is that got out before they wanted to tell us or tell the development community, because that's something that's an announcement they make at GDC that gets picked up by every publication. Everyone goes crazy, and I still think it's going to happen, to be honest with you. And I think when it happens, it's really going to pigeonhole Sony, because Sony, I don't think can they afford to do that, or would they do that? And that's just one of those things which Joe was saying, that I always hope Sony does better, and at every corner they disappoint. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you for a second that I don't enjoy their games. I have a PlayStation 5. I have plenty of PlayStation 5 games. I cannot wait to get my hands on Ratchet and Clank. I've been very vocal about how I'm not buying Returnal, A, because it's broken, and B, there's no save in the game, and I'm not going to play the game for 3 hours and lose everything that I just found. I'm just not going to do that. I'm not going to punish myself like that. But that's here nor there. Mag, I want to go to you next, because I think that you have a lot to say on what's been going on with Sony and what has come out of this Epic versus Apple.
Yeah. Now, before I get started, you're going to have a little patience with me, because I kind of want to paint a picture first.
Paint all you want, brother. Be a Picasso. It's all right.
I want to paint a picture first as to how I think we got to this point, or at least got to this point in terms of the information. Now, I know that some people, can refute what I say. That's fine, and there are different reasons. But these are my takes. This is what I'm thinking is going on. Now, when you guys are talking about the digital game scenario, we all know what that's about. What's going on there is that Sony's trying to control the pricing. Okay? They're trying to control the price. They don't want you, just like you were saying, they don't want you to buy a game for $50 off Amazon. They want you to buy it for $70 US, $105 for me in Canada.
Right.
And you're right, and they want to control that. If they want to put a sale on, they'll do it themselves. But we've already seen so far with the PS5. Look what's going on right now. It's been 7 months. Demon's Souls is still $105 up here. Miles Morales is still full price. Okay, $105 for the deluxe edition, whatever the hell it is, and whatever else, right? They're not lowering those prices. They're keeping them exactly like they are. I think that what they're doing is going the Nintendo route in terms of that. Like you could buy a game from 8 years ago, it's still full price. You know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous. But anyways, that's a whole other thing. Let me paint this picture first, and I'm just going to take a trip back from about a year ago. Okay? They were saying they weren't showing the PS5 because of COVID. Lies. Okay? In my opinion, lies. They weren't showing the PS5 because they weren't ready. They weren't showing the box. Already suspect again. The campaign of the only with the power of the PS5 and all of that business, right? Remember that? And only with the power of the SSD. And then in a tweet later that day, those games are coming to the PS4. They lied to us again. And I'm not talking them, okay? I'm not an X-bot. I'm not a Sony pony. I just happen to own everything. And I like to enjoy everything, so I look at it objectively, okay? I've given Microsoft shit lots last July and August and September, okay, when they were tripping over their own feet. People seem to forget that. But now I'm talking about Sony, and I'm not going to be very forgiving, okay, because I'm looking at this whole year. Now, my experience and my street smarts tell me that what they're trying to do, okay, I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to sell a PS5. They're trying to secure a product. They're trying to sell a product. But using deception to do this, to sell your product, okay, meanwhile, when your competition is laying down all their cards and the transparency and everything else, okay, then, of course, let's move on forward. Then we've got the supervised hands-on. You remember that? Yeah. With Austin Powers? Not allowed to see the back of the machine. We weren't even allowed to see the back of the machine. What were they hiding? They did not want us to see that there wasn't an external SSD, the whole nonsense, whatever. Then there was the old overheating issues. Then you can't put it into rest mode. Once we got them in our hands. I got mine. I got a PS5 the first week it came out. Okay? Then we can't put it in rest mode. No expandable SSD. It was promised It's 7 months. Where are you at, dog? Where are you at? 7 months. Okay? Still not there. Rest mode, still not fixed. The Returnal situation. I heard some reviewers were talking about this, saying, oh, well, if someone doesn't have time for 3-hour play, maybe you could put it into rest mode and you'd be able to stop for a minute. Oh, whoa, sorry, you can't, because if you put the game into rest mode, the PS5 might have a nuclear meltdown. Okay? A House Marquee having their earlier performance problems and their bugs. They were saying it was a PS5 hardware issue. What were the answers?
They actually did say that. Yeah, they say that publicly in a forum post that they sent their findings to SIE, and it's on their end, not on the game's end. Yeah,
exactly. And what's the answer we got from Sony? Oh well, nothing. That's what we got. Then I just talked about it earlier. The price. Okay, when you've got your competition doing Game Pass, doing what they're doing, I understand Sony does not have the expendable income that Microsoft has. But to jack your prices even higher it's not bold. That's not bold. That's stupid. That's just plain stupid by trying to do something like that. Be more competitive, not go the opposite direction. Like I understand Sony games are the best, some of the best first-party games on the market. I understand that. I get it. I'm part of that. Okay, all of 2020, I played basically PS4. Okay, I barely picked up my Xbox last year. Okay, and I was playing PlayStation the whole time. I get it, but to jack up the prices even higher, this is not the way you do it. You're slapping your customers in the face. Then, of course, now we hear the new news. The console is coming in late. Consoles won't be in better supply until late 2022, not 2022. 6 months from now, 7 months from now. Late 2022. Mm-hmm. That's a year and a half from now. And I asked myself, why? COVID? Okay, maybe. But why a year and a half? Then you start hearing whispers about the 2022 redesign of the PS5. Okay, and this is where I'm thinking. This is a lie. Another one. My take is this. The PS5, we all know, was not ready. Okay? They were taken off balance by that infamous December 2019 Series X reveal that Phil came on stage and knocked everybody's socks off with that whole thing. No, they weren't ready for that. They were not ready for Phil Spencer's Xbox. They were not ready for Phil Spencer's generation. They were not ready for the transparency. They weren't for the confidence, the aggression, the business moves of Microsoft this generation. So what had happened? Then what ended up happening is they started patching together like a friggin' Frankenstein. They started patching together this PS5. Just get it out the door. Just get it out the door to match the Xbox release date. I also thought that was also another conspiracy, that they just threw it out there just to get it out there to match the Xbox because they did not want another PS3 360 generation. I get it. Then you had the performance issues, the problems, the issues, the underpowered. I think that what's happening here is that they are deliberately delaying the PS5, deliberately, to late 2022 so they can re-release it. They can re-release an upgraded PS5 to match the power of the Series X.
Let me ask you a question, Mag. How many people do you think are going to care about power then? If that happens?
Well, then that's when it's going to become an issue. Yeah, then everybody's going to care about power.
All the people that said power doesn't matter. I got receipts.
But here's
I want to see what happens if that comes to pass. Where
absolutely, and you know what? Mark it here, timestamp it here, so we can replay it for everybody in a year and a half from now. Now, the thing is, this to me, as a consumer of the PlayStation 5, all the PlayStations. Okay, I was there lined up in 94, 95, whatever year it was. I was lined up. And I got my PS1 for like $1,000. Okay, day one. All right, I was there. But for an early adopter of the PS5, if this does happen, okay, this is a slap to the face to every early PS5 owner, present company included, okay, every early adopter of this product, okay, when they should have released that product day one. And if they couldn't meet that demand, and they couldn't meet that that date, what they should have done is they should have delayed it until it was ready. I feel like I'm eating a half-baked muffin, okay? Put it back, finish it. I don't like to taste the batter. I want a finished muffin. Put it back. That's the way I see it. And the reason, anyways, I don't want to get too off topic here, but the reason why I brought this all up, it all ties into Epic, Apple, Sony, all of this. This is the picture I was trying to paint here, okay? It all adds up to this. This is what this company is up to. The crossplay situation, that's bully tactics. Okay, I get that. That's bully tactics. And what they're trying to do, they're trying to assert their dominance. I understand. The problem is we now know. Now, okay, we know, we see it now, and that's not a good look. I understand that every company out there, whether it's Apple, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's Google, whether it's Sony, whether it's Amazon, doesn't matter who it is, they're all there to scrape every dollar, okay, out of our pockets. It's like scraping the bottom of a peanut butter jar, okay? That they're taking every dollar they can from us. I get it. That's business. The way that they're doing it, or at least the perception of what they're doing, especially with what this back and forth with Epic, with Sony carrying on in this way, is very arrogant, and it portrays greed. Now, I understand all corporations are greedy. I get it. They want everything from us. Okay, that's fine. We basically work just to pay them. I get it. But when when it comes to PR, when this stuff comes out, it makes you look even worse. So then what ends up happening is I read all these things. I read all the emails, boom. I saw all the articles. And what did it make me do? I can't be the only person thinking this. What I did is that when I went back and I thought of all the shady shit that they've been up to for the last year and a half, this adds up. And it says, yep. Then I just confirmed my suspicions. That's what this whole situation did. And so the reason why I brought up all that other stuff is because it just painted that picture of exactly the kind of company that you're dealing with. Microsoft are no angels. They step on necks, okay? They don't step on toes. Why do you think they're $1 trillion company? Okay? You don't get there by being nice. I get it. But these tactics are being done by Sony, are not being done by Microsoft or Nintendo.
Right.
They're only being done by Sony. And so you cannot not point your fingers at them. And the fact that people are forgetting about it, you know what's going to happen? Everborn said it 2 weeks ago. The minute Ratchet and Clank drops, and you know it's going to be good, my God, it looks gorgeous. It looks incredible. I can't wait to play it. But the minute that game drops, everybody's going to be like, fuck it. Don't care anymore. Give me the game. And they're going to forget about all this other stuff. And this is unfortunate because what they're doing is that in the end, it's anti-consumer and it's against everything that you should be celebrating. And they're still celebrating. And it doesn't matter if you have the best product on the market. It just shows that you're celebrating the wrong reasons. And it's ridiculous and it needs to be pointed out and they need to be straightened out in order to move forward. And the only way that that's going to happen is that if Xbox takes the bull by the horns and drives this generation and they put themselves in the driver's seat. Mind you, everybody knows that, let's face it, quietly Nintendo is the market leader. But I mean, when it comes to competition, we're talking Xbox and Sony. You know, Nintendo is like in their own galaxy, basically, right? But if Xbox takes it by the bull by the horns, takes this generation and leads the generation and basically runs the narrative, then Sony will change. But until then, as long as people allow them to keep getting away with this kind of stuff, it'll never change.
All right, let me jump. If it's okay, can I?
Yeah, jump on in.
Okay. So here's the thing. Mag, you tell me. Matter of fact, everybody on the panel, tell me what we are gonna do day one when Ratchet comes out.
I'm going to buy it like an asshole.
All right. There you go.
I'm going to stare at it and not buy it.
And so I think this is the problem. I think the only fix to this, because everything you said is correct, right? It's terrible tactics. They're not there for you. But at the end of the day, the only way to fix this is with competition. And this is why you need competition, because they are doing these things. Say it with me, because they can, right? Yeah. Never expect somebody to do the right thing, because at the end of the day, crossplay, while it is good for everyone, and I think it is more beneficial for the industry as a whole, and I think Sony holding this back is holding back gaming as a whole, holding back crossplay. Guess what? Financially, they have the most to lose. And I'm not saying I'm justifying it. I'm saying this is why it happens, right? They are the market leader. They have a pipeline of games that people want to play coming out to the point, and then they are the darlings of the media. But I would argue that the media this is why you can't really trust them, because the media is not really pro Sony or whatever. They're pro the winner, right? And they will switch sides so quick if they see that that's what will get them more clicks.
Well, you're
right?
seeing that now.
Yeah, exactly.
that is
You're
true,
literally
Everborn.
seeing that right
So-
now.
So the way to change the media bias, which totally exists, is 100% for Phil to succeed. Phil has to succeed and convince the world that, and it seems like he's doing it, that Game Pass is the future, that we don't have to worry about generations anymore, and they have to move units and release games that make the industry stop and take note. Because if they don't, all of this gets worse. Maybe the next generation or the next 2 years, Sony just says, you know what, games are $80 now. What are you going to do? Not play God of War?
Well, then
Right?
I don't buy
Right?
them, and then that's when I stop buying games.
I don't know, because
Yeah.
like I'm not happy about $70, but guess what? When you put the next Horizon in front of me, or you put Ratchet or Ragnarok in front of me, $70, even though I'm against it, guess what? Probably gonna get it.
And they know that.
But you're saying if they decided to raise it to $80 just because they think
I'm
they
saying
can,
it does, but
I would not buy their games.
It doesn't unless someone pushes back, the customer like pushes back and says, I'm not buying it. That's the only way this stops. That's the only way they learn. They're not going to do the right thing, right? That's never going to happen. And I'm sorry, like if and to your point about the PS4, the PS5 potentially not being its final form, right? Because they released it early. I said this in the private chat. I think there's a reason the console looks like Frieza from Dragon Ball, right? it's not the final form, right?
No.
But like I said, I'm
late
just
2022, Everborn. I'm sorry. Come on.
But now let me ask you a question, because what I think, did he really just put his arm back on?
He put his hand back on.
Yes. Just gonna say,
Everborn, stop watching. Stop watching. Stop watching, Everborn. You're gonna get spoiled.
Okay, so
It was a Lego character. Don't worry about it.
I completely lost my train of thought with that. I apologize. Go ahead. I can't think anymore. Go ahead. I'll
Ethan
remember.
Winters is the $1 million
Lego.
man, bro.
Oh my god.
It's made out of Lego. Don't worry about it.
Listen, I think
No, but the jacket connected.
the jacket got
too.
healed. That dude, it's unbelievable. Listen, don't let that ruin the game for you. I sat back in my chair and I laughed so hard when I saw him, and then he moves his fingers like, okay. Yeah. I didn't just have my hand chopped off, but the magic juice made it.
the water inside the bottle. Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Sprinkle it on. It's all good.
Yeah, you know what?
It was a potion.
Let's continue with Cybernox on this. Listen, you heard what everyone has had to say so far. Yeah. Listen, I again, I have a PlayStation 5. I've had every Sony PlayStation. I've had every Vita. I've had every version of PlayStation VR. I really enjoy Sony's products. What I don't enjoy is the Jim Ryan era of PlayStation, because they always talk about for the players. They always talk about that they put the players first, and I understand that
that's their slogan, right?
I understand that they have great games. I talk about their games in the best light because they're my type of game. See, I'm a selfish player. I like single player, story driven narratives where I can invest in the character and I don't have to worry about multiplayer. That's me because I'm an old school player. Like I started gaming in '78. There was no multiplayer. My brother sat next to me. We played Pac-Man. I handed him the controller when I died. That was multiplayer, right? Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on the way they handled crossplay, the way that they increased the games during a pandemic, where again, we've seen other companies do it, but Sony didn't have to do it for their first party, and they did. They figured out a way to do it. What are your thoughts of what everyone had to say, and what are your thoughts on the controversy that's surrounding SIE right now?
Well, you guys know I have a voice of an angel, right? So I got a little something here for you guys. It goes something like this. I know you like to think your don't stank, but lean a little closer. See, Roses really smell like poo, 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 poo. Yeah, roses really smell like poo, 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 poo.
We're
That was just a
losing
little-
we're losing
that was just a
viewers
little
by the minute.
outcast there for everybody. Yeah, exactly. No,
Oh, dear
in all
Lord.
seriousness. First, I believe that none of these companies ever wanted to be part of this Epic versus Apple
No,
dilemma
I
that's
agree with
going
you.
on
I think they
because
were all very shocked by that.
yeah, so once they all got pulled in and all this dirty laundry starts coming out, they're just, shaking in their little space boots, and it shows exactly what I think Sony has been for a long time. Now, they make great games. I love their games as well. Boom. Their first party games are absolutely top notch, probably some of the best in the industry. But they do have, or they do seem like they do their typical smoke and mirror Sonys in my opinion. They will literally say whatever at any given time to get that momentum and get their fan base on their side, regardless of what their true intentions are in the background. Example of this crossplay. This crossplay has been happening. They've been against this for a long time. I believe in 2018, there was an interview with the higher up of Sony's. What was his name? I don't remember his name, but it was oh shoot. Oh, I don't really know his name, but when he was asked about crossplay after he had left the company, he said that when he was at Sony, they said that the reason for internally not allowing crossplay was money. They didn't like someone buying something on an Xbox and being used on a PlayStation, and it was something as simple as that. And it goes to show you that Sony wants to, like Max said, greed, right? They want to keep everything to them, consolidated to them right there. And I know we're just going on Sony on this here, and I know this price hike. I know what they've done with their stores now. They've stopped selling digital codes on third-party stores, Walmart and Amazon, things like that. They've stopped selling digital codes. They want everyone buying at their store. And I get it, business, right? I completely understand. This is not just to harp on Sony. But the idea that they claim to do everything for the players and their slogan literally says for the players just doesn't make sense once you start adding up all these things. Everything that Mag painted earlier and said earlier is absolutely true. There's a lot here to see that we need to see beyond what's going on, in my opinion, as well. I know Sony it's got a bad light on them right now, but I also look at Epic and I don't like what they did either. Just telling Sony, hey, let's maybe it's just because they were they had the fan base, they had the 100 million plus consoles out there. The Fortnite numbers on PS4 were probably out of this world, and they really wanted them to continue with this crossplay. But it makes you think also about the Unreal 5 engine reveal that they did with the PS5.
Yeah.
Why was Epic and why would once this information comes out, you just start like looking at the breadcrumbs, and then you start to question all these things, like how genuine was this, or was this all part of a bigger strategy that they had in the background? Like they wanted to make Sony the heroes, like kind of what he said,
yeah,
exactly on during the email. And it goes on and on. They said we'll give you the data and all things like that. So yeah, man, it's unfortunate that something like that this comes out, but it's also extremely eye-opening, especially for the consumers. But you said something extremely important, Boom, when you were talking about this. You said that you feel like the tides are turning, and you think it's because of Phil Spencer's community first ideology.
Yep.
right? And I
100%.
completely agree with you. And we've said it multiple times here on the show that we feel like some of these executives from Microsoft, they actually have a relationship with some of the people here in the community, actually with a lot of us in the community. How many times do we interact with some of the higher ups and they'll actually respond back? Sometimes some of us will even get to be on a party with them, and they'll, Jason Ronald, Aaron Greenberg, Major Nelson, Larry
It's funny. You
Herb,
made
even Phil
this just
Spencer.
real quick. Let me just jump in for
Yeah.
that, because this is the difference. Again, I understand it's corporate America, but a perfect
Yep.
example. I was having an issue with my Elgato, Joe. For some reason, I can't turn on HDR when I have it on the Series X, right? And what I didn't know is that I need the better version that allows HDR pass through. I didn't know that, right? Like I'm all thumbs when it comes to tech. I'm just not a tech head like that. I understand it, but there's things out of my depth. Don't you know? I reach out to the creator of the Series X, and he actually takes the time to DM me, "Hey, Craig, this is what's going on. You can try this. If it's still not working, reach back out to me, and I'll talk to somebody on the dev team." Who does that?
Right.
And I think as time goes forward, like that, because I really feel like they are creating kind of these sort of lifelong fans in doing that. And remember, corporations don't have feelings, right? They don't care about you, but people work for those corporations, and those people will reach out to you. Those people will respond to you. Those people will acknowledge you, and that is important. And when people say they don't understand why, people are fans, because Xbox doesn't have those third-person trip over the shoulder story, narrative, adult themed, whatever games, like Xbox is building a community that I think is, and they're acknowledging that community, and the people at Xbox are a part of the community with you, right? 100%. And that, I think, goes a long way. And I think the more they do what they do, right, it's a long road. They're taking the long vision. I think Sony is thinking about right now money, right? That's all the moves they're making seems like it's about right now in the moment, and tomorrow's problem is tomorrow.
Right.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say, and on the opposite side of the spectrum, what we have is on the PlayStation community, I don't see that from any of their higher ups, let's say. Not necessarily they even have to, right? But we don't see that from the community. We don't see we started to see a little bit now with Returnal, right? But a lot of the community, especially on Twitter, are more worried about hating on Xbox, talking the console war every day, this and that, rather than acknowledging the problems that are affecting them right now or could potentially be affecting them in a year or two. Can you imagine, kind of like what Mag says? Like I mentioned this on a podcast a long time ago too. I believe that the PS5 was their best prototype, not because they wanted to release that, but kind of like they got caught with their pants down, and they needed to release something. So can you imagine if they release another PS5? I mean, it's not, in a couple of years. Like
I think it's going to be within the next 12 months, dude. I'm going to be honest with you, based on the reports that we're starting to see, and they're saying that it's to be able to put more consoles out there. I think there's more to it than that. But we're not going to know. But let's get Crispy Bomb's opinion on here, Cyber. Good stuff as always. Crispy, you heard everyone on the panel so far, but I know that you have a very unique opinion of what's been going on with Sony when you talk about the way that they're handling things as opposed to the way Xbox is handling things. So obviously it is night and day. We see how Game Pass has changed the industry in a way that I don't think anyone saw coming except for Microsoft, because they're the ones that created this back in when they launched it in June of 2017, and it has been nothing short of an incredible journey for them. And it's made people places like SIE they're gonna have to pivot based on what has happened with Game Pass. What are your thoughts on the blocking crossplay situation, along with everything else that's come out of the Epic versus Apple court proceedings?
Well, and let me just put the corporate hat on for like a minute because I can care less about that. You have to think that, at this point, and Mag brought it up, Cyber just brought it up, your back's against the wall. You have to do things that are unorthodox. The problem with this entire lawsuit is that most of these things happened before that, before we even knew about the console, technically. So what they were doing was anti-consumer when the PlayStation 4 was the only relevant console. Now, the problem I have is, and this is the strange thought, and it's only a thought. They released the UE5 demo for PlayStation on the PlayStation Showcase thing. Okay? Why in God's name did those lawyers, and the lawyers have to talk to the client, and even if Apple brings it up, they still have to talk to the client because they have to distribute evenly what is going on, what they're going to bring up as a argument or anything like that in between each other, because that's the freaking law. A lot of people don't realize that, especially in a civil lawsuit, not like a civil case, not like you're trying to get $500 back from somebody. I'm talking about civil lawsuit. They have to distribute evenly what their arguments are going to be. And you go and give PlayStation this all glory that UE5 is going to be great on PlayStation. But what first party's using it? Ain't none.
Nobody.
Okay?
Yeah.
Ain't none. All right. And then the coalition goes and brings it out. And a lot of people didn't see that. Epic Games just put the fist pound to them after they did that. Like, dude, like, I already know, you want to know who's got UE5 right now? Probably Xbox. All right. And, Microsoft, a lot of people don't realize there's an article came out that they decided to be a part of this lawsuit. A lot of people don't realize that. They decided to be a part of it because they know that they did nothing wrong. Like, yeah, there's some things you're like, oh, what the hell is that?
Well, I mean, they had those 18 games redacted that they have exclusivity on, right?
Yeah, but at the end of the day, Epic is going to say, well, we can release these emails because Xbox play nice with us because they're going to use our technical properties. You know what I mean? Why not? They're not going to say nothing stupid to us. But on the other hand, we have this other company that, we gave this great demo, this great, possibility. And they're just like, no, we're just going to use what we got. And now, they're looking at it like, okay, well, Xbox had that one thing where you couldn't play the free-to-play game without the live subscription. And now that's gone.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, and this is right before this, all of a sudden, all these things got coming out. And that was the one thing that you could go and call out on Xbox. It's a little strange. And that's where I go and say, stop thinking about that corporate gosh darn company and think that they care about you, because they don't. The only thing we got on Xbox side is people actually talk to us back. They actually respond. They actually tell us what's going on or what's wrong. It's not like Returnal, you're sitting there like, oh, well, I went through 3 hours and the damn game crashed and nobody's telling me nothing. Oh, there's an update. It's going to fix it. No, it didn't. Oh, there's an update. It's going to fix it. No, it didn't. That's all they say. Oh, hey, everything's great. No. We're sorry. Stuff like that. It doesn't have to come from the dev itself. It has to come from the actual company. I mean, come on. Xbox would be like, hey, this is screwed up. Hey, Gears 5, there's so many tweets about it. It was so screwed up at the beginning. And it wasn't just Gears and the coalition and whoever's Twitter handle. It was also Xbox. Like, hey, we're working on this. And this is at the launch of Game Pass and everything else. A lot of people don't realize that. They didn't know what they were into. You know what I'm saying? There's a point in time where you have to look at yourself and you have to say, I spend money on a console. I spend money on playing those games. I spend money on this and that. And I give you credit, Boom, because you didn't buy Returnal. And I see a lot of hardcore PlayStation gamers that have trashed Xbox over the years actually calling it out, which I appreciate. You know what I'm saying? Saying this isn't right. And the point is that PlayStation is not play has no limits. Play has limits, people. I'm sorry. They limit you to what you can enjoy. And they do it in their own way to make their money because they have to. Microsoft don't have to. They don't care. They already got Game Pass. They're already giving you a boatload of games for $15 at the most a month. They don't care. All they care about is gaining the trust back of the consumer. And you can see that in every tweet, every thought process, the way they work themselves. And you know what? I'm going to align myself with that. I'm sorry. I'm not going to sit there silent. And when I'm mad, they actually respond and say, hey, the Xbox Live $120, that's over. You know what? And we're going to make free-to-play games actually free. Oh, wait, you heard us? Oh, shit. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't understand it. Like, these companies, are they paying you? I mean, how far are you going to go? I mean, do you think it's helping you? I don't think it is, because at the end of the day, you have to think about yourself. And at least for me, like having so many followers and everything, I have to think about the people that, may not have what I have or anything else. Like, like if you don't want to be a part of Game Pass and you just want Xbox Live, I'm going to say, screw that. You can't triple the price. You can't do that. And that's my point. Like, Apple, I'm sorry, I have an iPhone. Yes, I do. iPhone 11. The thing is trash. Absolute trash. Like, I've only had it for like a year and a half. The plug's already blown, everything else. They will not replace it. They refuse to, and I have to go through the manufacturer's warranty. They will not replace it. I've had my Series Elite 2 controller for 2 years, and I called them up, and they are willing to replace it because I bought a Series X. Think about that. For 2 years, and it's my own damn fault because I dropped the thing a couple times. Okay? I'm sorry. Like, you as a consumer have to look at yourself and say, is this company worthy of my loyalty? And that is the way I look at every single company I deal with, including my where I work. Like, it's like, are you worthy of my loyalty? Well, you make me work my butt off, but you give me 4 weeks of vacation. That's the way you have to look at it. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, what has been, put out in the dirty laundry, it's all dirty now. You can go and look at what Xbox said, and you can go look at PlayStation said. And the one thing I go back to, and this is why we love Phil on the Xbox side, is Phil is truly a gamer.
Yeah.
He has to make money, but he is truly a gamer, and he wants to be liked. He wants to be known, and he also knows that, playing games is what matters. And I think that's why we got Game Pass. I mean, dude, I can't believe we have game. I don't even know what to do with myself half the time. I'm like, which game am I going to play? You know what I mean? Like, that's a problem I've never had. And it's crazy, but it's totally pro-consumer. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, everyone had great points. Again, obviously, this has been a great 2-hour show for sure. We got to thank Joe for taking the time to come and hang out with us for 2 hours. Joe, hopefully you enjoyed yourself. Obviously, you got a chance to interject your opinion, which of course was done with class and precision, which I expected no less. Joe, I kind of would like you to just on your outro, tell people what they could expect from your game coming out later in 2021, and where could people reach out to you on social media and potentially check out your game trailers that you have on YouTube for Song of Iron?
Yeah. Again, thanks for having me. I love being on. It's fun, and it's nice to be part of the conversation too. I like it. It's great. Song of Iron is kind of everywhere social media wise. I just even jumped on TikTok, which is apparently what you're supposed to do now. So I'm just getting going over there. But yeah, YouTube, Song of Iron. I've got 2 trailers up. Beta Alpha Gamer I just gave them a 10-minute gameplay video, so you should check that one out. That went up Friday or Saturday evening, and it shows some of the demo, but it's a whole chunk and it's very much improved from the December demo and stuff. So worth checking that out. Wish listing on Steam, and I think I'm most active on Twitter though, so that's a great place to poke for me and ask me. And I've got an alpha or like a beta test that I'm getting people signed up for. So if people are interested in helping out, finish the thing off, I'm more than happy to have people sign up and go from there. And they can find that on my Twitter also.
Nice. Well, Joe, thank you so much for being here, brother. Definitely appreciate you giving us your insight and, of course, talking about Song of Iron. I think it's going to be a big deal for a lot of people, including myself. I cannot wait to play. So thank you for being here. So let's get the rest of the outros. Middle-aged gamer guy, tell everyone where they can reach out to you on social media, but more importantly, what other shows are you a part of?
Well, yes, guys, thank you once again for having me tonight. And Joe, thank you for coming by and joining us. It was absolutely awesome. And honest to God, I greatly look forward to playing your game. And I'm excited to hear more news on it. So I'm really excited. And of course, when it does come out, we will be talking about it on this show. So, yes, anyways, guys, as always, you can find me here every Monday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Mr. Boomstick XL and friends on Primetime Gaming. Tuesday nights, you can find me at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Gaming After Dark. That's with Noof Nukem, Titan Drago. And yes, of course, you can follow me on Twitter at The Middle Age Game Guy. That's with a GY at the end, of course. And on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, you can find me at all one word, all capitals, because I don't know how to be quiet. I am the Mag. So, guys, once again, great show. Chat, don't get too excited, guys. We're just having some fun. We're just having some conversation. So, guys, everybody have a great night, and we'll see you all next week.
Thank you so much for being here, brother. Definitely appreciate that. Everborn Saga.
Yes,
why don't
sir.
we tell us where can people check out the Everborn Saga, and where can people reach out to you on social media if they want to strike up a conversation?
Well, the answer to all those questions is Everborn Saga. That's Everborn Saga on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Steam. That's my YouTube channel, but more importantly, everbornsaga.com. You can get a hold of these comics here. I just got word from the printer that production is done, so they're getting ready to ship the books to me, and everyone's going to get a chance to check out Ariel's Adventure #1. I'm going to post a video. You guys will see it later, but if you can't wait, go to everbornsaga.com. You can get into the series, and I'm going to have an announcement very soon about the release of Prince of Arcadia Chapter 4. So check it out, everbornsaga.com and Everborn Saga on your favorite social media platform. Can't wait to talk to you guys in the tweets.
Yeah, we're definitely looking forward to hearing what you got going on with the Everborn Saga. Thanks for being here. Cyber Knox, let's get you on that here, brother. Glad to hear that you're back to full power after battling COVID for as long as you did, and great to have you back. Tell everyone about your YouTube channel. More importantly, what you got going on with the Game Pass Club, and where can people reach out to you on social media?
Yeah, really appreciate that, Boom. Joe, it was a pleasure meeting you, man. Like we spoke behind the scenes, your game is looking absolutely incredible. I can't wait to when it releases. Yeah, guys, Cybernox on Twitter. Not Cyber of Iron, but maybe I'll change that until we get a little bit more info on Cyber of Iron. But yeah, so Cybernox on Twitter, that's where I am mostly more active. Cybernox pretty much where gaming is evolved. And Cybernox pretty much everywhere on my YouTube channel. And I also have my second channel and Xbox Game Pass Club, where it's pretty much a book club, but for games that are on Game Pass. We'll select a game at random, play that game to try to expand our gaming portfolio and use Game Pass for exactly what it is, a discovery mechanism for us to explore new genres.
Nice.
So I'll be picking a new game this week, probably Wednesday, so there will be a new video on Wednesday on Xbox Game Pass Club. That's also on YouTube and Twitter. And I can't wait to be here next week again, talking game with you guys.
Thank you. Definitely appreciate it. We look having you back next Monday evening. Crispy Bomb, another special guest. Thank you for jumping in, brother. We definitely appreciate you being a part of the conversation. Of course, dropping the knowledge bombs that you're known for. Tell everyone what other shows you're on and where can people reach out to you on social media.
Hey, it was a pleasure, Joe. Absolutely, looking forward to this game, and your enthusiasm and your descriptions were just incredible, and it makes me super excited for it. But at Crispy Bomb on Twitter, Crispy Bomb 28 Xbox Live. You can find me on Retro Renegades tomorrow night, 7 p.m. We also got the next podcast Thursday, 8 p.m. prime time, and then the following morning, 10 a.m. Breakfast with Boom. Yes, hit me up.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for being here, brother. And everyone, listen, this has been a fantastic show. I want to thank the super chats that came in. Obviously, you help power the show. And of course, we had almost 300 people here. And you know what? That's not bad considering that Colt Eastwood, good friend of the community, launched his show today. And obviously, you're going up against a gargantuan talent like Colt Eastwood. I just want to say a big thank you from the bottom of my heart to the entire community that tuned in to keep this show going. Obviously, we've been doing this for over a year. We love being here and we love entertaining you, and we hope that you were entertained. So once again, thank you for tuning in. And of course, I want to close out the show with something that's important to me. Hopefully, one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dear old dad taught us when we were kids. And I think now, more than ever, it's super important. He said, son, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. We'll see you next week on the newest episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends.
And hit the